The envelope was cream-colored, expensive paper, with my handwriting across the front in fountain pen ink, still sealed and sitting in the center of my locked office desk at 7 in the morning. Sophie sat in the chair across from me, 17 years old and the most brilliant student I'd taught in 12 years of university literature courses, with dark eyes that missed nothing and were watching me now with something between contempt and grief. "How did you get in here?" I asked, my voice steady despite my hammering heart. "Professor Arnaud let me in and said I was retrieving a book I'd lent you." She smiled with no warmth. "I'm very trustworthy, you know, top of your class and a model student." I looked at the envelope again, the letter I'd written to Claire 3 nights ago that was passionate and explicit, declaring love and describing what we'd done in my apartment the previous weekend and what I wanted to do next time. I'd planned to give it to her tonight at the gallery opening where we'd pretend to meet by chance and where I'd slip it into her coat pocket during a casual embrace. "Where did you find this?" I said. "Your bag yesterday after you left it in the lecture hall after class, and I brought it to your office but saw this on top when I looked inside for your keys to lock the door." She paused carefully. "I recognize my mother's name, Professor Laurent, even written in your creative style." My stomach dropped hard.
"Sophie, how long have you been sleeping with my mother?" The directness shocked me because Sophie never raised her voice, and she was always articulate and composed, the kind of student who wrote papers on Proust that made me rethink my own interpretations. "We need to talk about this calmly. 6 months? Since January? Since you came to our apartment for that dinner when she invited her favorite professor to thank you for encouraging my academic growth? That dinner where Claire wore a silk blouse and we had wine and conversation about Flaubert that turned into conversation about everything else, with Sophie excusing herself early to study, while Claire and I talked until midnight, with her hand touching mine across the table. Sophie, your mother and I? Are you in love with her?" The question hung there, direct and impossible to deflect. "Yes," I said quietly. She flinched like I'd struck her. "Does she love you?" "I believe so." "You believe so after sleeping with my mother for 6 months, and you believe she loves you?" She laughed bitterly. "Did you read the letter, Professor, or did you just write it?" I had read it multiple times while writing it and pouring out everything I felt, everything we couldn't say in public or in restaurants where we pretended to be colleagues, or at university events where we stood carefully apart. "This is complicated," I started weakly.
"No, it's actually very simple, because you're my professor and she's my mother, and you've been lying to me for half a year." "We weren't lying. What do you call it then? When I asked Maman why she seemed so happy lately and she said she'd reconnected with old friends, or when I thanked you for the extra attention you'd been giving my work and you said it was because I showed promise. What do you call that?" My hands were shaking and I pressed them flat on the desk. "We were protecting you. From what exactly? The truth that my literature professor is having an affair with my divorced mother, that the 2 women I respect most in the world have been sneaking around behind my back. Your mother wanted to tell you, and we both did, that we were afraid of what I'd think, of how it would look, of whether people would say you were giving me special treatment because you're sleeping with my mother." She leaned forward with intensity. "Were you, what? Giving me special treatment with my grades and recommendations and the research assistant position you offered me for next semester? Was any of it real, or was it all because you wanted to keep my mother happy?" "Sophie, no, God, no, you're brilliant. And everything I've given you, you've earned. Prove it." She reached into her bag and pulled out a paper, sliding it across the desk. "My essay due today on Camus and absurdism. Read it." I picked it up and scanned the first page, finding it eloquent and insightful and exactly what I'd expect from Sophie. But then I saw it. A phrase I recognized. And then another, and then entire paragraphs. My stomach turned to ice. This is plagiarized. Yes, it is. Sophie. Lifted directly from 3 different scholarly articles, and I didn't even try to hide it because the citations are right there in the bibliography, and I just copied them, whole sections verbatim. I stared at her in disbelief. "Why would you—" "Because now you have to choose." Her voice was calm and cold and terrifying.
You can fail me and give me a 0 and report me for academic dishonesty, destroying my transcript and my university applications and everything I've worked for. Or you can pretend you didn't notice and pass the essay and give me the A I deserve as your top student, proving that you've been giving me special treatment all along because you're sleeping with my mother. My hands went completely numb. Sophie, this is fair, cruel, necessary? She stood up slowly. Choose carefully, Professor Laurent, because either way, everyone's going to know. Either I'm the brilliant student who suddenly got caught plagiarizing by her objective professor, or I'm the kid whose grades were inflated because her teacher was sleeping with her mother. Either way, your relationship with my mother becomes public, and either way, people talk and ask questions and investigate.
You can't. I already have, because the essay's submitted and time-stamped in the system, and you have until Monday to grade it, which gives you 48 hours. She picked up the envelope containing my letter. I'll give this back to Maman and let her know you're thinking of her, that you can't wait to taste her again. That's on page 2, by the way. Very poetic. She walked to the door and stopped and turned back to face me. I loved you both, she said quietly, with devastating sincerity. You were my favorite professor, and she's my mother, and I trusted you both completely. And you chose each other over honesty and over what was right. So now you get to choose again, between your integrity and your relationship. But you can't have both. She left, and the door clicked shut behind him, and I sat there with the plagiarized essay in front of me, my career and her future and our love, all balanced on an impossible choice. My name is Gabrielle Laurent, and I'm 36 years old, and I teach French literature at the Université Paris-Sorbonne. And 6 months ago, I fell in love with the mother of my best student. This is how it happened. It was January at a parent-faculty mixer with required attendance, and I hated these events with their small talk and parents asking if their child was reaching their potential, and wine served in plastic cups. Then she walked in.
Claire Rousseau was 42 years old and recently divorced, and Sophie's mother, and I knew her from photographs in her daughter's essays because Sophie had written about her mother's separation and processed it through Barths and Kristeva. She was taller than I expected and elegant in a way that seemed effortless, with dark hair pulled back and minimal makeup, and a dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary, but didn't announce it. Professor Laurent? She extended her hand gracefully. I'm Claire, Sophie's mother. Please call me Gabrielle. She speaks very highly of you and says you're the reason she's applying to literature programs instead of law school like her other mother wanted. Sophie is exceptional, and I've never had a student with her insight into textual analysis, and her essay on Duras was genuinely publishable. I read it, but didn't understand half of it. She smiled warmly. But I could tell she loved writing it, and that's your influence. We talked for 20 minutes and then an hour, while other parents came and went, and we barely noticed their presence. Would you like to continue this conversation somewhere with actual wine? She asked finally. We went to a cafe nearby and talked until they closed, discussing Sophie and teaching and her work as an art curator and her divorce and my perpetual singleness. Why perpetually single? She asked with genuine curiosity.
I'm married to my work, or at least that's what my mother says. And what do you say? That I haven't met anyone who understands why I'd rather read Flaubert than watch television. I love Flaubert deeply. Really? Madame Bovary destroyed me when I was 20 because I wanted to be Emma, tragic and passionate and alive. Most people hate Emma Bovary. Most people are afraid of wanting too much. Something shifted in that moment with the way she looked at me and the way I couldn't look away from her. I should go because it's late, I said reluctantly. Or you could come to dinner this weekend at my apartment because Sophie would love to continue your discussions outside class, and I would love to continue ours. I should have said no and should have recognized the danger immediately, but I didn't. I'd love to. That dinner changed everything because Sophie was brilliant as always, But after she left to study, Claire and I talked until past midnight while sitting closer and letting wine blur our boundaries. "Can I confess something?" she said softly. "Yes, of course. I didn't come to that mixer for Sophie, but because she wouldn't stop talking about you, and I was curious about the woman who made my daughter fall in love with literature. And I understand why, because you're captivating." My heart hammered wildly. "Claire, I know that you're her professor, and I'm her mother, and this is complicated. Very complicated."
I wrote her recommendations that were glowing and honest because she earned every word, and I gave her top marks because she earned them, and I offered her the research assistant position because she deserved it. None of it was favoritism, and I swear it wasn't. But how could I prove that now? I called Claire that evening. "We need to talk immediately. Is everything all right?" "No, Sophie knows everything." Silence fell, and then, how did she find out? "She found a letter that I wrote you." "Oh God, what did it say?" "Everything, about how I feel and what we've done, literally everything." "Where is she now?" "I don't know, because she left my office hours ago." "But Claire, there's more." I told her about the plagiarized essay and the ultimatum and the impossible choice Sophie had given me. "She's hurting and she's lashing out," she said finally, with maternal understanding. "She's destroying her future to destroy ours. No, she's testing you, and testing whether you'll protect her or protect yourself. You can't pass a plagiarized essay. You can't fail her either. Not publicly, and not with everyone watching. What am I supposed to do then? I'll talk to her, and I'll make her understand. She won't listen because she's too angry. Then what happens? You fail her and ruin her university applications and end her academic career? Or I pass her and prove I've been compromised this whole time." "You haven't been compromised. How do I prove that? How do I prove any of her grades were legitimate?" "She's right, Claire, because this relationship has tainted everything, including every grade and every recommendation, and all of it's suspect now." "So what are you saying exactly?" "I'm saying maybe we should have waited, and maybe we should have told her, and maybe we shouldn't have started at all." I couldn't answer that question. "I love you," she said quietly. "Does that matter at all?" "I love you too, but Sophie is my daughter, and I will always choose her, but I don't want to lose you. We might not have a choice anymore." I didn't sleep that weekend, and just stared at the essay and read it a dozen times, seeing that the plagiarism was blatant and intentional because Sophie had wanted me to catch it. But what was the right choice here? If I failed her, I would prove my integrity, but destroy her future, and make our relationship public, and face investigation and questions and scrutiny. If I passed her, I would protect her future and keep our secret, but compromise everything I believed in as an educator. There was a third option, one I hadn't considered until that moment. Monday morning, I walked into the department head's office with determination. "I need to report a conflict of interest." Professor Arnaud looked up calmly. "What kind of conflict?" "I've been in a relationship with the mother of one of my students, Claire Rousseau, who is Sophie Rousseau's mother." His expression didn't change at all. "How long has this been going on?" 6 months. "Does the student know about it?" "She found out this weekend." "And you're reporting this now because she submitted a plagiarized essay intentionally to test whether I'd fail her or protect her because of my relationship with her mother." "I see." He sat back thoughtfully. "What do you want to do about this situation?" "I want to recuse myself from grading her and from teaching her and from anything involving her academic evaluation." "That's wise and appropriate. So I'll assign another professor to grade her work for the remainder of the semester." He paused. "And Gabrielle, this relationship, does it continue?" "I don't know yet. It shouldn't continue. Not while she's a student here. And you understand that." "I do understand." I left his office and went to mine and found Sophie waiting there for me. "Well?" she said tensely. "Did you make your choice?" "I recused myself from your case." "What do you mean?" "I reported our relationship to the department, and another professor will grade your essay and all your future work, so I won't be your teacher anymore." Her face went completely white. "You told them everything?" "Yes, I did." "But that means investigation and questions and maybe sanctions against me, and definitely scrutiny of all your grades because they'll review everything to make sure it was all legitimate." "Why would you do that?" "Because you were right, and I couldn't grade your essay fairly. So failing you would look like punishment for exposing us, and passing you would look like favoritism. So I removed myself entirely. But now everyone knows. Yes, everyone knows, and your mother and I will probably have to end our relationship, and my career will take a hit, and your grades will be questioned. So everything you were afraid of and everything you wanted to avoid by keeping our secret is all happening now. She stood up and started pacing frantically. I didn't want this. Yes, you did, because you wanted me to choose. So I chose honesty and transparency and integrity, even though it costs me everything. The essay will be graded by Professor Moreau, who is fair and thorough, and she'll catch the plagiarism, and you'll face the consequences. Not because I'm punishing you, but because that's what happens when you cheat. I just wanted... What did you want, Sophie? She sat down heavily and put her head in her hands. I wanted you to choose me and to prove that I mattered more than her, that my education mattered more than your relationship.
You do matter. And you matter enough that I'm willing to sacrifice my relationship and my reputation and everything to make sure you get what you deserve, which is fair evaluation and honest grades, with no favoritism and no bias. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. What happens now? Now you withdraw the essay, and you rewrite it legitimately, and you submit it to Professor Moreau. And if I don't? Then you fail, and you deserve to. She looked up with red eyes. And what about my mother? I don't know, because that's between her and me. Do you really love her? Yes, I do. Even though it's ruined everything? Love doesn't ruin things, but secrets do, and lies do. And we should have told you from the start, and should have been honest. And that's on us, and not you. She stood up slowly. I'll rewrite the essay. Good. At the door, she paused thoughtfully. For what it's worth, I'm glad she has you, even if I hate how it happened, and even if it's over now, because she's been happier these last 6 months than she's been since the divorce. Sophie, but you can't be together, not while I'm your student, and not while people are watching, because it's not fair to any of us. I know that. She left, and I sat there alone, having chosen integrity over love and honesty over happiness. I met Claire that evening at a cafe far from campus, and she looked tired and beautiful and exhausted.
Sophie told me what you did, she said. I had to do it. I know, but it means we can't see each other. Not until she graduates, and maybe not even then. That's over a year away. I know. Gabrielle, this is my fault, because I should have refused that first dinner, and should have kept boundaries, and should have protected both of you instead of being selfish. It wasn't selfish. It was human, and we fell in love. At the wrong time and in the wrong way. Is there a right way to fall in love? There's an honest way, and we didn't take it. She reached across the table and took my hand. I don't regret loving you. Neither do I. But that doesn't make it right. So what happens now? Now you focus on Sophie and help her through her final year and support her university applications and be her mother. And you? I rebuild my reputation and prove that my teaching has integrity and that I can be trusted. And us? There is no us. Not right now, and maybe not ever. Don't say that. Claire, your daughter plagiarized an essay to prove a point about our relationship, and she was willing to destroy her future to expose our secret, and that's how much this hurt her, and how much we hurt her. She'll forgive us eventually. Maybe she will eventually, but I won't forgive myself if I keep putting what I want ahead of what's right. You're ending this then. I have to. She pulled her hand back and wiped her eyes. You're right, and I hate it, but you're right. I'm sorry. Me too. She left and walked out of the cafe and out of my life, and I sat there alone, having chosen the right thing, and knowing it was the right thing, but wishing it didn't hurt so much. 6 months have passed since then, and Sophie graduated with honors and got into her top choice university, and we don't speak, but I see her name on the dean's list and see her success. Claire sends occasional emails with updates about Sophie, but nothing personal and nothing about us. I've been cleared of favoritism charges,
because the review showed Sophie's grades were legitimate and earned and everything I said they were. But the damage is done, and students look at me differently now and wonder and whisper. I did the right thing, and I know I did. But sometimes late at night, I wonder, what if we'd told Sophie from the start? And what if we'd been honest? And would she have accepted it? And would we still be together? I'll never know the answer to those questions. All I know is this. I fell in love with my best student's mother, and she discovered our secret. And she didn't destroy everything, because we did that ourselves. We destroyed it by choosing secrecy over honesty, and by putting our happiness ahead of what was right, and by not trusting that love could survive the light of day.
That's the lesson, and the one I'll carry, and the one I'll teach. Not in lectures, but in how I live. Some boundaries exist for a reason, and crossing them, even for love, and especially for love, has a cost. The question is whether you're willing to pay it, honestly, and openly, and with integrity. We weren't, and so we lost everything anyway.